Hey everyone, it's your favorite host, Marcus of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Today, I'm excited to talk about something that has been itching the back of our noggins, man. I was like talking about entrepreneurship. First off, we're talking about children, which is a topic all its own. But we're going to dive deep into entrepreneurship and how to sell entrepreneurship to our children. And I have the expert of all experts and his new book, Sip, How to Help Kids Taste Entrepreneurship and Build the Best Lemonade Stand Ever. You won't want to miss 1 second of what this book is about and what this gentleman has to say. Stay tuned. Here we go. Hi, I'm your host, Marcus of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. If you are just tuning in, I am the host of this fantastic show you see before you. But more importantly, this man who I'm about to bring to the stage, Sean Johnson. He is the author of the book, SIP, S-I-P, How Kids Can Taste Entrepreneurship and Build the Best Lemonade Stand Ever. We are struggling. I'm struggling. How do you get to convince your children how to carve out a new path and set out on their own and introduce them to the wonderful, tough world of entrepreneurship? He's a founding partner also of his company Manifold, a venture holding company, and has spent the last 12 years investing in early stage startups and advising enterprise organizations on innovation. So he's also invested in startups and in the future of what our economy looks like. So this man is impactful and he's doing big and better things. So help me welcome to the stage the incredible Sean Johnson.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome. Really
I'm glad you are here, sir. I could not do this show without you. We all have our guesses. We all have our emotions behind how we feel to raise our kids in the best light, to get them motivated for entrepreneurship. But you wrote the book, sir. Literally wrote the book.
Yeah.
And so help me, because we gotta get past some barriers here.
Sure.
But first off, what inspired you to write the book? Why the focus on entrepreneurship and children?
Yeah. So when COVID hit, we made the difficult decision to kind of take our kids out of the school district and homeschool. So like my wife works, I work. So we did like half day. We would take turns and we would work, and then we would, go into teacher mode, and then we would try to get everything else done at night after the kids went to bed. So it was an intense year, but one that I'll always remember. But one of the things that I told her when we were talking about curriculums and things like that, generally speaking, there's really fantastic curriculums for math and language and all that kind of stuff for homeschool parents, but I couldn't find a really good one for entrepreneurship, and or at least that talked about things the way that I wanted to talk about it and to do it justice. And so basically made my own curriculum and use the idea of a lemonade stand. But it was kind of from the framing of like, how do we make the coolest lemonade stand ever? And so every exercise was kind of designed to get them to think a little bit bigger and to kind of expand their horizons. And so we did customer interviews where they had to learn how to go up to people cold. And it was sort of like a gentle on-ramp to sales. It was like, hey, what do you look for when you want to buy lemonade? What frame of mind are you in? Are there types of situations that you're in? Do you prefer sweet or sour, all that kind of thing? They then came back, we found recipes, they did taste testing. So they did another round of interviews where they blind tested different recipes. We made packaging. So we went on Pinterest and made a mood board of cool packaging they liked. And then we went and found from packaging websites, companies that sold the kinds of bottles that they liked, and taught them about unit costs and how that impacts potentially profitability. And we made labels and came up with a brand, and I taught them kind of the principles for kind of brand creation, and made a bunch of marketing materials. They made stickers and t-shirts and yard signs, and I taught them Webflow. So they made a website and accepted orders online and did delivery. And then, yeah, they spent the summer kind of slinging lemonade. And, I think they averaged $100 a day. So they made way more money than, the other second graders or fifth graders that they knew, but they learned, how to do financial projections and how to map their forecast to actual and all that kind of stuff. So was a fantastic experience. And then kind of coming out of it, the parents, we would be buying lemonade, but the parents would come up to me on the side and just be like, hey, how did you do this? Where did you come up with this? Where'd you get this curriculum? And I said, well, I made it up kind of as we went, just using my experience. And they said, you should write this down. And that happened enough times where, I thought, I really should document this. And so that's what I did. I wrote it down and turned it into the book. And so literally the entire process that we go through with the kids was broken down. And it's broken on, very stepwise, very modular, in a way you can kind of do one piece at a time. But really, I hope gives them the basics of building a business, from finance to marketing to operations, all of that. So like way more detailed than like supply and demand and all of that kind of thing. That was kind of the goal.
Wow. This is like a full blown curriculum. This is soup to beginning. Yeah. This is everything encompassed. Sir, how old were you when you first got your taste of entrepreneurship? When did that start for you?
That's funny. I actually started making websites for people when I was in high school. So just in my neighborhood, my dad was a small business consultant growing up. So I had the benefit of kind of being exposed to that. And he would give me, Rich Dad, Poor Dad or E-Myth or whatever. And I was like, all right, Dad. I was mostly interested in like basketball and girls at the time, but they would be sitting in my, by my bed. And sometimes I'd pick them up and read them, and I kind of got the itch. And so I taught myself how to make websites. And that was how I first, so it was like, a dentist here. I made a website for like an ironworking company way back in the day. So yeah, that was how I got started.
So wait, you picked up the girls and read that? You picked up the girls by creating your website?
No, they were not. They could not.
That was a pickup line for
that. No. But sometimes, it'd be 11 o'clock at night and I'm bored and there's nothing to do, and so I might as well read the book that my dad was, trying to shove down my throat. And and the lessons sort of stuck. So
it sounds like we had the same dad. My dad made me read books on summer break. So it's like, oh, I'm free, no school, and he's like, nope, read this book. Tell me, write an essay on it, and then tell me about it. Like it never stopped.
That's super cool.
It never stopped. The affinity towards books now has benefited me greatly in my later years, but man, did I hate it.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon,
too, right? Is like the things that you don't think stick, that just are going right over their heads. Like they more than you think are settling in. So that should be an encouragement, I think.
So true. That's incredible. Wealth Wisdom Financial, the Neelys. My 4-year-old served 33% in negotiating. I had no idea I taught him that. It's a complete accident. That's awesome. That is super awesome. Where do you recommend someone start? Do you recommend starting in finance? Do you recommend starting with marketing? Do you recommend starting with negotiating? How to negotiate the art of the deal?
Where I started with two ideas. One was that a business is a system, which means I had to teach them what a system was, and a system has parts and all that kind of stuff. But I think a business seems sort of like a black box to a lot of younger folks and even to older folks too. But I really tried to break it down and say, a business is really just a bunch of different pieces that work well together and create a whole that is better than the sum of its parts. And by doing that, kind of demystified. It's like even a company, like Apple or Tesla or whatever it is, like a lot of the principles are the same. You have to get your raw materials, you have to turn them into something. You have a manufacturing process, you have to keep them somewhere before you sell them. You have to get them to the customer, either direct or through, channel partners. You have to market to get them aware of it. All of those different pieces, a small business and a big business really are fundamentally have the same kind of component parts. So I taught them that first. And then the second idea was the most important system, I guess, is your offering. So your product or your service. And the idea is that like the number one rule of business is make something that people want, because if you can't make something people want, everything else that you do is not going to matter. And that kind of came from startup land, like the idea of product market fit. We talk a lot about the number one reason why businesses fail in startup land is premature scale. So it's basically like I scaled before I figured out, if people actually wanted this thing. And so, a lot of the work was trying to take these lessons and translate them into language that they would understand. But the idea of make sure that you build something people want. And the best way to do that is to go outside and ask them and actually talk to them. And you'll learn they don't always have all of the answers, but they have a lot of the answers. And so those were the two things that we started with.
Sean Johnson, y'all. Told y'all, this is impactful. This is phenomenal. Oh my gosh. This is what I needed to hear. He's spilling I can't say all the tea, some of the tea. We need some of this tea. But this is huge. It feels like it's like a downward spiral effect. I'm fighting behind trying to get the kids in my life to see the benefits. Are you all in with entrepreneurship? Why do you think kids should learn entrepreneurship versus any other skill or any other hunting, for example? Why entrepreneurship?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I think one, just in general, I think there's a perception in the world that entrepreneurship is a risky path, and I just don't believe that. I believe that it's actually less risky, and the reason why, or it's a different type of risk. The reason why is that once you know the order of operations and the steps that you have to do, that even if everything kind of cratered, you could go and you could do it again. So like if I know how to go outside and find something that people want and then create something to kind of serve them, and I know how to make them aware of it through marketing, if I know how to sell it, and if I know how to do it in a way that's profitable, I can be kind of economically independent. And as I think about the future and the things that we want kids to know, a lot of parents are nervous about things like globalization, things like automation, what jobs and what careers and what skills are going to be relevant 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now. I have a hard time seeing a world where entrepreneurship won't be one of those skills. And it's almost like a meta skill in a way, because even if you never start a business and you decide to work inside of an organization, a lot of the same skills still apply. Like who is your customer? It might be your boss or your boss's boss's boss, kind of in addition to who your end user is. You have to make something that they want. So taking initiatives that you want to spearhead and learning how to position them in a way that accomplishes your end customer's goals, super relevant. Learning sales, super relevant. Packaging, super relevant. So a lot of the lessons I think apply kind of regardless of what career you end up pursuing. But I think especially as we look into the future and think about what careers are going to be relevant going forward, entrepreneurship, it just seems pretty top of the list from my perspective.
Yeah. What's going to withstand the test of time? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. Love it. We have one quick commercial break. We got to pay some bills, y'all. Speaking of entrepreneurship, we got to pay some bills. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for a reliable, professional trucking and logistics service, you've come to the right place. Musa Trucking is a veteran-owned and operated premier transportation provider that can help with all of your trucking and logistics needs. Musa is revolutionizing the trucking industry through strategic partnerships, the development of core personnel, and the use of cutting-edge technology. Our inventory system ensures that cargo ends up divided into the right trucks and reaching the correct destination. Our drivers are dedicated to transporting goods efficiently and safely. Contact us today to get started by visiting the website on the screen or by calling 757-756-5246.
We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast show. If you are just tuning in, we have the incredible Sean Johnson, the man who wrote the book on entrepreneurship and for kids and how to build the best lemonade stand. Check him out. Check him out. Sir, I want to ask one last question, but then we're going to transition. I have to ask. Product marketing, sales. I have my opinion on which one really set the tone for me. But in your expertise, which one, sales, marketing, advertising, negotiating, which one is the most important skill a child should learn?
I think sales. And the only reason why I say that is channels. I guess, there are principles of marketing. Marketing is a way of packaging your product and communicating in a way that makes people at least interested, right? But the tactics, I think a lot of people, when they think of marketing, they think of specific tactics. So they think of SEO, they think of paid acquisition, they think of whatever it is they're thinking of. And the problem is that those tactics change over time. So like you could build a business, and I see it all the time in startup land, especially if with most commonly with paid acquisition, because it's so easy and fast to spin up Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever it is. And if you can get the ROI working, you're just sort of printing money at that point. But the problem is like they make an algorithm change, they change something in the platform, and then you're kind of gone, you're gone. Or even just the economics of it change as channels get saturated. So building an outbound sales muscle in particular is way harder, but I feel like is way more protectable, because it just means that no matter what happens with this channel or that channel, if I can create a process for generating my own leads via phone, via email, via, channel partnerships, whatever it is, and convert them, that is a much more protectable business, and therefore is a much more valuable business. So.
Close a deal. Gotta be able to close a deal. If you have a great funnel, but you can't close a sale, that was something I learned much later on in life.
Yeah.
I was in network marketing and I had to market myself.
Yep.
And I did terrible. But when it came to my own business, when it came to something that I was going to reap the benefits of, I excelled. I did extremely well.
Yeah.
And so that I'm glad you said that, because it's mine as well. Sales.
Well, I think a lot of people think of sales as in a negative light. They think of the used car salesman or whatever, but there's like, sales is really just, I don't want to sell you something that's not actually going to help you. And so if it's not a fit, like, not a big deal. Like, we'll go our separate ways, and I wish you the best or whatever it is. So like, it's really just about me trying to help you figure out the solution to a problem that you've already identified. That's why we're having a conversation, and then we explore, can I help you or not? And obviously there's a lot of skills there in terms of do I communicate effectively enough the ways in which my solution can solve your problem, but it doesn't have to be a high pressure sleazy type of thing. I think it could be an elevated experience where they trust you, and they're happy that they made the decision, and they don't feel any sort of remorse or anything like that. There is a way to do sales that I think is much more human than maybe what people tend to. You know what I mean?
Right. I really hope that my child doesn't go into car sales. That's that's a hard industry.
No, those skills are like my very first job I started doing the business, but my first job where I worked for somebody else was a telemarketer, and it was selling long distance plans back in the like, that dates me a little bit, and then credit, like American Express credit cards. So imagine being like 16 trying to sell credit cards. And
the benefits of it.
Yeah. Did I enjoy the job? No, but I did learn persistence. I learned how to overcome objections. I learned how to communicate benefits rather than features. I learned when to pause and shut up and let them, talk. Like, there was a lot that you can learn in a really compressed period of time, in a outbound type of role where you just get tons and tons of reps really quickly. So, yeah.
Very true. So true. So true. And you're so right. I'm having flashbacks to my childhood. Mr. Sean Johnson, y'all. Sir, how long did it take you to write the book? Let's talk about the book.
Sure. Yeah. So once I sat down to do it, I mean, I'm really curious, because I have aspirations to do more writing. And this was a really good exercise to learn that process. I'm really curious about how hard it will be the second time, because with this one, I had the outline, in terms of the curriculum. I had spent some time doing it, and obviously wasn't in a narrative type of format. But this actually came together pretty quickly. So what I started doing was, just in the morning for an hour, I would sit down before I did anything else, and I would just spend an hour writing, because I knew the rest of my day would just get subsumed with fires and whatever. And so if I didn't allocate at least an hour in the morning to do it, it wasn't going to happen. So, but I mean, it's 130 pages. So I think it took me probably 5 weeks to put together the first draft. And then I had 2 rounds of edits. I had a developmental editor that helped me with the flow and all of that. And then that took another probably 4 or 5 weeks. And then I had a copy editor that did kind of last minute stuff. And that took another 3 or 4 weeks. So, so front to back, probably 3 months or so, 3 to 4 months, to kind of create it. But I'm curious to see how it'll happen next time when you know, maybe it's not quite as defined, you know, like the whole like researching process was sort of already done for me a year ago when I created the curriculum. So I'll be curious to see how easy it is next time, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What can readers expect? Is this like an educational book? Is it an instructional book? Is it encouragement, motivational book? Or
Yeah.
is it like, you know, what can readers expect when they make the purchase on the book?
Yeah, it's very hands-on and practical. So I mean, I think, you know, like the chapter about businesses being a system is probably the most philosophical, I guess, or theoretical. But even in that step, they're kind of creating what I call the one-page business plan. And I tried to document it. I tried to make everything as simple as possible for them to do. But it's like, hey, let's go find recipes and test them. And here's the process of doing taste tests. We're going to go out and source ingredients and find out where we can get the cheapest ingredients for our recipe. And again, so like they went to grocery stores and wrote down like how much things cost at different places. You know, production, we tested different production methods, and, you know, they tracked their time and how long it took to produce them, so we could figure out like yield relative to time. So each chapter, other than maybe that one chapter around, you know, what is a business, has a very hands-on component to it where they're actually getting their hands dirty and creating stuff each time. So I would say it's very much leans on kind of the practical side, but they're learning principles and ideas throughout as they're going through those exercises.
Absolutely. Love it. Do you recommend a lemonade stand for every child, or is that as a first startup business, or are there other areas that a child can expand on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that obviously, you know, if you live in a colder climate, that it might be less, you know, I live about a mile away from a lake that gets very busy in the summertime. And so the kids were able to kind of set up there. But no, I mean, I talked to my son now about, you know, he learned how to make websites with Webflow. He did a second one for his basketball team. You know, I've been telling him, like, you know, you can make some pretty good bank making websites for people if you get good at it. And, you know, it's not unusual to, you know, have a small business owner in town pay you $1,000, $2,000, whatever, to make a website. Like, you get a pretty nice car if you decided to get really good at it. And so, you know, I think he's in junior high now, and he's got a phone. And I think the lemonade stand might be a little bit, you know, too cool for school. But the website thing, I think, is piquing his interest. And their eyes get big. I mean, like, you know, I did it for reasons that didn't have anything to do with like money necessarily, but their eyes do get, you know, like I remember that first week when they were counting their money, I was like, you know, you just made more money than most high school kids with their summer jobs. And their eyes got big, and they were like, wow, you know. So like, it's certain. I don't want to act like it's not a motivator for them.
No, it is.
Someone just mentioned landscaping. Yeah, like one of my best friends growing up he was running 3 teams in high school, running a landscaping business. So, you know, probably much harder work than squeezing some lemons, but definitely lucrative for him. So yeah,
for sure. What about startup capital? How does that discussion come up? Like, do your kids borrow money from mom and dad? Say, hey, this is a loan. This is not free money. And like, where do you get the startup capital to start the business? Yeah.
So we helped them with their initial expenses, but the idea was that they needed to pay down, like we tracked them in their financial projections, and then they paid down their fixed costs, right, to get to break even. And so I didn't charge them interest for that. You know, I think you can do different ways. I mean, like I've had conversations with folks who they're planning on doing it this summer, and they're going to like charge them. They're going to give them carry. So like, for every $1 you make, I'm going to give you $1, like that kind of thing. Like, so people are getting pretty creative with it. I didn't get into equity, really. I didn't get into like, well, I'm going to be a co-owner in this thing with you. I just thought that was a little bit
sharky,
beyond their pay grade a little bit. Well, it's just, you know, that's the world I'm in, is startup land. But in some ways, I don't know if a startup is the purest representation of what a business is, because you raise money from investors, you're expected to grow 10, 20x in a 2-year or whatever period of time. It's a little bit, they're deliberately putting capital in to artificially help you grow faster than you otherwise would. It's like steroids in a way. So it's like, I wanted them to understand the basics of building a business, and like, you want to be profitable, you know, as quickly as possible. So I didn't really get into startup land too much, just because I felt like it's like one step detached from It's like my dad used to say, starting a business is like jumping out of an airplane and trying to build a parachute before you hit the ground.
Yep.
Taking capital is like a rocket, like a jetpack attached to your back, but you're still pointed down. So like, I didn't want, like, they gotta like really do that. So I didn't want them to, I thought that was a little too advanced for them.
I'm gonna strap a rocket ship. You're still sinking. The ship is still sinking, but we're gonna help you get there fast.
That's right. Like, yeah. And I didn't want, like, we do this because of portfolio theory. Like, I didn't want to, like, I don't.
I love that. I love it. So that's unique. So you do. So I'm trying to really listen for it. You do or you don't invest startup capital in them?
No, in my day job, yeah. I mean, we're investors in an early stage fund. We've done 20 some deals. So yeah, that's very much what I do. But yeah, with my kids, I wanted them to learn a little bit more blocking and tackling, business 101 type stuff,
Absolutely. We have a question from our VIP sponsor, Miss Nikki Brown. Thank you for your sponsorship. We appreciate you. We love you. She asked the question. I'm going to put you on the big screen for this because I want nothing to do with this question. This is all you. She asked, how do we start the conversation with our little ones?
Yeah, I mean, I did it just in terms of this is something that we're going to be learning as part of school, so it made it a little bit easy for them. But they sometimes have asked, like, what do you do for a living? And it was a little bit difficult to explain, what venture capital is or what innovation consulting is. I just started with like, what is a business? And they buy things from, they like Nike, or they like, they want Steph Curry's new shoes, or they want an Xbox or whatever it is. And that can be a really good hook to be like, do you know how that Xbox or whatever it is got here? And kind of talk to them about what a business is and how a group of people decided to kind of create something that people wanted. And then they went through kind of a series of steps to make the thing, test the thing to make sure it worked, marketed the thing, put the thing in stores, kind of that whole thing. And that kind of got their interest peaked. And I think the other thing is like, when I have conversations with them, a lot of people talk about like, what do you want to be when you grow up or whatever it is. And my wife comes at it from a different angle. My wife is a pretty senior executive, but has always worked for somebody. And so she comes at it from that lens of like, here's how to do well in your career. Here's how to network. Here's how to do all those kinds of things. And so she'll talk about, going to college and getting a certain type of job. And then I say, or, you can start that company, like that kind of thing. So I always try to drop that in there and just get their eyes to be like, what do you mean I can start a company? I'm like, well, everything that you see here didn't exist. And then someone decided that it should exist and they got to put it in the world. So like really, like it's about giving them agency and like letting them see they can make things in the world that, like, I feel like entrepreneurship is just the best mechanism to get people to realize that the world is malleable and that they can actually change it and it's just about like, can I find something people want? Can I make it for them? So
you stole my next question. That was my next question. Like, I think for me, my future wife is going to have to be the academic because I'm full blown entrepreneurship. I haven't lost touch, but I've lost faith in, the education system and, going to school, getting the job, staying there for 30 years. That does not appeal to me. So unfortunately and fortunately, my wife is going to have to be because I'm not. I'm not going to be the child, the parent that's like, you need straight A's. Oh, you brought home a B? Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. So I'm glad you brought that up. Are you like 100% entrepreneurship and the wife is, academic routes or, and you let the kids decide, or do you?
Yeah, I think so. Cause like I've been this way since I was a child. I mean, like when I was in daycare in the summer, I would start a club like Spy Club or Ninja Club or whatever. And I always was like the president, and it always had a weird arbitrary number of levels in it. And I was always at the top. I've always been wired this way. And I think at this point, I'm probably unemployable. I mean, I had a job at 20. The last job I had, I was 23. And so I'm 41 now. So, I mean, it's been a long time where I've kind of worked for myself. So, I think that just is how I see the world and it's not like you have to do it. It just, and it, like, I don't want to trivialize it. It's definitely hard and it has different types of risk. The risks are, what you will struggle with is, am I good enough? That'll be the big question that you like. Your biggest fear is like, am I good enough to do this? Can I pull this off? And you have to like silence that part of yourself and just trust the process and like not obsess over the outcome. And it's just like, hey, listen, if I make my 50 calls a day, it might take longer, it might take shorter or whatever it is. But if I make my 50 calls a day and if I learn based on what I'm seeing and I don't just keep, but I don't give up and I maintain that persistence, like I'll get there. And so, I just think that's, but her method has worked really, really well too. And she's done great and she loves it. I mean, and she gets hired to like help a company with 500 people become a company that has 2,500 people. I don't know how to do that. Like I'm the 0 to 1 guy, or like I can help you. Our company, our advisory business does, some 8 figures, let's say, in revenue. But I don't know how to run a 9-figure revenue company. I've never done it. So there's different people with different skill sets that are valuable at different places. And, I would be a disaster in her job. Like I would, so you know what I mean?
Right. Right. And I heard that on a previous podcast interview. First off, this is powerful because I did interview a young lady who created a lemonade stand.
Oh, cool.
She's done extremely well in North Carolina.
Awesome.
But then too, like I've heard that where CEOs is like, I love starting companies. I don't like running companies.
Yeah.
And they like to sell them. They hey, I'll help you get off the ground, or I'll help you, kind of like what you said. I'll give you the capital, but you will handle the day-to-day functions of this.
And the reverse is also true. I mean, like we've seen where founders come in and like they go from 0 to 1, but they raise money. The company it outpaces their ability to kind of maintain their skill acquisitions. Like the kind of person that can run a 10-person company might not be the person to run a 500-person company. And that's okay. Sometimes it is. And sometimes they're very impressive people who manage to level up and they have a great board and all that kind of stuff. But like, it's not a given. And like private equity is a great example. Like they come in and they have a playbook and they don't know how to go 0 to 1, but they know how to like 3X a thing in 3 years, almost every single time. And it's a completely different playbook. And it's like cost cutting and looking for synergies elsewhere in their, like, it's just a completely different world and it works really, really well. I'm just not that guy. So like knowing who you are, knowing what your skill sets are, I think is pretty important. So
super true. Speaking of jobs, I'm not doing my job. We have one more quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We'll stay right back.
Are you a local business looking to offer your customers easy access to cash without having to travel miles? We're here to help. At Norman Legacy Investments, we provide free ATMs with free installation that provide a suitable investment for your business. Even better, we offer you some profit sharing and handle everything from start to finish. Just reach out to us today to schedule a free consultation.
Good day, podcast listeners. This is your boy, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I wanted to let you guys know that we will be rolling out a new feature and adding a join sponsor button next to the subscriber button here at the bottom of your screen. Once you click the button, it will display 3 membership levels. Gentleman Gentry, which is our entry level, Duke Duchess, which is our season level, and the Emperor and Empress, which is our most sophisticated level, which you will receive unique perks and benefits at each differing level and gain access to our community tab. We will also be sharing polls, upcoming events, and interviews, as well as receive feedback from our sponsors directly. Your support helps me find new and exciting guests to bring to the stage live. Well, in order to get the higher end speakers, it requires, you guessed it, money. So thank you for tuning in to my channel. And if becoming a sponsor sounds good to you, then select the join button below and choose your desired sponsor level. Let's continue to grow and serve the future of generations of men and women to come. Love you guys. Bye. We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. If you are tuning in for the first time, we have Mr. Sean Johnson. literally man who wrote the book on entrepreneurship for our children, for our kids. He literally wrote the book. And he dove in and he explained how he has gone through the journey and explained the journey to his children, using them as the examples, and his family, and has created several just triggers for his children to now explore different avenues. But he's not, pro entrepreneurship and forget education. But he's both. His family encompasses both, and they incorporate both. And so if you missed that, go check that out. Go back, scroll back. We are on iHeartRadio, YouTube, Facebook Business page, Spotify, Google Play, Apple iTunes, and everywhere you get your podcast from. Mr. Sean, sir, I need your help. Where in the world, if my kid is not taking to entrepreneurship, I've done everything. I've thrown the book at them. I've thrown the lemonade stands at them. I have tried everything, and they're just not getting it. Should I give up?
I don't know if I would give up, but I also would have grace. Like that was one of the things I think that I had a lot of conversations with my wife about when our kids were younger. Was we're both pretty type A people in our respective ways, and it was important to me that like if my kid decides that they want to be a veterinarian or something like that, like it's important to me to never make them feel like that they need to do what I did to somehow be successful in my eyes, or for me to love them, or whatever it is. And so I feel like that's a really difficult thing, because I think it could even just be a glance, like a sideways whatever, when they're talking about something that they're passionate about, and you could like murder that spirit in them, like permanently, right? And so like that is something I've been really cognizant of, and I think it's a challenge with high achieving parents of like, I think there are everyone struggles with it, but it's like you could channel all of that energy into your kids, and maybe they'll be great, maybe they'll be like just super high anxiety, maybe they'll be depressed because they can't pull it off, or don't feel like they can pull it off, or whatever it is. So it's like I feel like my job is to plant seeds and just drop seeds, but I can't make it grow. You know what I mean? And so like my job is to try to model the character that I think is important for them, the skills that I think are important for them, like look for teaching opportunities. Obviously, this was a unique opportunity for me to kind of give them a curriculum in a more forced way, because I was, literally their teacher. But yeah, I never want it to be the kind of thing where it's like I want to find their areas of like natural interest, and then try to either tie that back into lessons or skills that I want to give them, or nurture their own thing, even if it's not what I would do personally. You know what I mean? It's hard. That's a hard thing to manage.
It is.
Yeah.
Where I struggle, just going back to education versus entrepreneurship, where I struggle for me is at my age, the women I meet have kids.
Yep.
And so for me, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Typically the women I meet are not.
Okay.
And so the problem is with education, sometimes sometimes comes student loan debt.
Mm-hmm.
I am not on that path.
Yeah.
I didn't get any student loan debt.
Yeah.
I don't have any, and I will continue that probably till the day I die.
Sure.
And so a wife who's on the path of education, say, listen, I'm not paying for that.
Yeah.
If you want to go to school, you can, but I'm not necessarily willing to pay for your. If you want to go to school, great. Like I met a father. He told his kids, if you're not getting into STEM, right? If you're not getting into anything of STEM, I'm not paying for it. And he had to take that stance. All his kids are engineers. What a coincidence. They're all engineers. But he took that hard, fast stance early on with his wife and with his family to say, listen, I am not paying for college unless you take one of these courses. How do you balance? How do I get over that? Am I wrong for feeling that way? I mean,
I with kids, I think at the end of the day, I've come to the conclusion that everything is kind of a big longitudinal study, and I'm not going to know until they're 25 or whatever, and they're going to be like, "Dad, you really screwed up," or whatever it is. What I will say is that as as a husband, my job is to find areas of alignment with my wife, have a lot of those conversations. Like when we got married, I mean, first of all, when she met me, I was a waiter at a seafood restaurant, and she was getting her master's at NYU and was an economist working at Ernst & Young in New York City. We lived 3,000 miles away. And we met on a dance floor in Las Vegas. And I was like, I see no reason why this can't work out. She 100% married potential, you know? And I ended up, you know, like it worked out. And I've tried to like, my whole thing has always been like, you're not going to outwork me. And so, you know, I spent 8 years teaching at Kellogg in the entrepreneurship program. And I always thought it was hilarious because I don't have a graduate degree, but like when we got married, she had student debt. When we got married, she had a different view of the world. When we got married, she made a lot more money than I did. Like we had to talk through all of that stuff and kind of figure out a plan. And like, you know, we did the whole like Dave Ramsey thing and like, we're really aggressive about paying that stuff down. But so now as we're thinking about like fast forward to our kids, like we're trying to be open about it. Like, I don't know if college will look the same the way that it has in the past. I know that for my wife, at least, like there are certain professions that I will say are closed off to you if you don't pursue a degree. And maybe there are much fewer than you think, right? Like for her, it is very unlikely she would be able to do what she's doing had she not gone down that path. For me as an entrepreneur, didn't matter. Like I had an undergrad degree and, you know, no one cares. No one has asked me that question in 20 years. So where we settled is like, I don't want to prescribe, like I have a point of view about whether or not it's totally necessary, but I don't want to deliberately cut off opportunities for them. Because I think that if they decide that they want to become an entrepreneur and they happened to go to college or went to grad school or whatever it is, entrepreneurship is not closed off to them. If they, on the other hand, they decide that, you know, they wanted to, become a management consultant at McKinsey and they didn't go do it, or become an attorney, like it's very, you know, it's that path is effectively closed off to them. So, yeah. And again, like just balancing and we've had conversations about it. Like we've gone to therapy over the years to hash things out. Like having communication is really important.
Sure.
There have been times where I would say things. I tend to speak in very declarative, you know, black and white things. And she's like, you know, sometimes the way you say that makes it sound like what I'm doing is a complete waste of time. And I was like, no, that's not what I mean. You know, I had to like learn how to do that. So it's like, I don't know. It's a complicated answer. I don't, you know, but I think for me, it's like, and again, getting back into the other variable is who they are. Like maybe they don't want to be either one of those things. I'm like, I gotta be ready for that too. And I have to like show them that I'm going to love and support them. And they don't have to have a certain amount of money in their bank account. They don't have to go to a certain school. They don't have to start a business or whatever for me to love them. And so trying to balance all that stuff, is
like
definitely
that. I just want to sit on the beach and smoke pot and surfboards.
That one would be tough. But it's like, oh, you're going to start a surfboard company?
Right. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. Where can we get a copy of the book? Where can my audience connect?
Yeah, so it's on Amazon. Looks like that. If you just type in SIP book, it should show up. You can also get it. Oh, there you go. Perfect. You can also get it on my website, sean-johnson.com. Doesn't help me in any way though. So I mean, go straight to Amazon. That's totally fine. But yeah, and let me know if your kids end up doing it. There's a private Facebook group you can access if you get the book. Kids can, you know, parents can share ideas and stuff like that. But I would love to hear how they're using it and what they're learning. So
love it. This has been phenomenal. Oh my gosh. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this interview all week long.
Me too, man. Me too. This was fun.
This was fun. Mr. Sean, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be here and to give back and to educate. Now I have a path, a direction, a course, and I got to get a copy of the book. You all should get a copy of the book. If you have children and they're on the fence about entrepreneurship, get the book, get your copy, and connect with Mr. Sean immediately. Because, hey, we want to give them options, right? Like you said, plant the seed, give them options. If it's education, if it's entrepreneurship, if it's lemonade, if it's landscaping, whatever the course may be, you have options. Our kids have options to them, available to them. All right, we got to let Mr. Sean go. He has several companies to run, him and his family, so we got to give him back. But sir, thank you for being on the show today. I appreciate you. I want to say this to you publicly. Don't quit. Don't ever give up. We need what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. This has been great.
Absolutely. Appreciate you. And thank you all, my audience, for tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I hope this helps. I hope this
Good
inspires.
questions. Yeah, great comments and questions, everybody. That was very cool.
Yeah, love you guys. Thank you guys. Like I always end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always, always take care of business. This is Marcus Norman, your favorite gentleman, and Sean Johnson, the man, the myth, the legend, who wrote the book Sip: How to Help Kids Taste Entrepreneurship and Build the Best Lemonade Stand Ever. Love you guys. Bye.